Mark Holman, my stud. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Yeah, of course, man.
Bro. So we recorded a podcast and then the editing turned to shit. So we're back here to go hard. One of the main things I want to talk about just like straight away is like practical tools men can use to boost their testosterone. You gotta fuck one, marry one, kill one, go.
Okay. Yeah, so the first one, I've been getting into this a lot recently, is like the high T lifestyle. It's not just taking supplements, it's not just training hard, but it's really like crafting the way you live in a way that requires testosterone. So it's not like the way you live your life makes the testosterone in your body be produced. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So this is things like challenges. Like, this is why usually people in business and more successful people have higher levels of testosterone, because they're challenging themselves on a daily basis. Competition is a really big one.
Like
so mentally, physically, any type of challenge will give you that result.
Like in business, like itself, it's like,
yes.
Is it is it like the dopamine that you get from like winning a challenge?
Yeah, so it's dopamine and testosterone have really correlated. So there's a function there. But if you think about evolutionarily, men with higher testosterone levels were more dominant, and therefore their lineage was able to continue. And the lower T people, they kind of suffered out and they didn't proliferate.
All right, we're going to continue on this, but I still got some questions. Sorry, remember where you're at, right? Because
yeah.
you're into this, but I need to dig into this. So, does that mean that, like, let's say you had those guys, as you said, you got the high T dudes, and then the ones who had low T and then like phased out. Mm-hmm. But what you're saying here is someone's environment and lifestyle will depend if they have high T or not.
Yeah, exactly. So if we play the example of, like, let's take a guy who lives in his parents' basement. He doesn't go out much. His job is just on the computer. He codes. He doesn't really like it. His intimacy comes from watching porn. He doesn't have a community. That lifestyle, you don't need testosterone at all. Because, like, in order to court and find a mate, you just take out your phone and you scroll. So where's the demand for testosterone in that? When we'll take the other guy who's like crushing it in business, he's out in the world, he's like pursuing women, he's pursuing business deals, he's competing, not only just in business, but maybe in sports and like combat, martial arts and stuff like that. There's much more demand for him to be dominant just from how he lives his life. And so that, therefore, his physiology is getting the signal that we need more T. And so it produces it.
So that's kind of cool, because when I did a lot of study on like DNA stuff for a while, essentially what I learned was there's like, I can't remember where the theory come from, but they called it traffic lights. So you've got green, orange, and red in regards to how your DNA works. And what will happen is your environment and your situation, whatever's going on, if there's like mold in the room, mm-hmm. it'll trigger genes for mold that are needed, or like that your body uses in detoxifying or whatever it is. And that gene will now go green, and because it's green, it's turned on. And then until you change that, it's going to be green for a while. But sometimes that green can still remain turned on for like months after you've even had any mold exposure, until eventually it's like, oh, there's nothing around here. It calms down and goes off. Are you saying that's like what happens in regards to test as well?
Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah. So like the thing with genetics, like your genetics load the gun, but the environment pulls the trigger. So everyone kind of has the same, well, genetically we're all different. So some people will have the predisposition to have higher test levels than others, but we can kind of find trends. And so trends kind of go across the average. So having the environment, yeah, like essentially what you're saying, having the environment that requires high T, your body's going to produce that, unless then we start getting into the things that we're facing these days, like unless you're loaded with toxins, you have microplastics all in your body, your nutrition is shit. Those are all factors that are at play as well.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So let's get back to the high T lifestyle from where you were at before I interrupted with the men in business. So like it was men in business, it was people that, you know, when you're breaking down the different factors.
Yeah, so yeah, dopamine and testosterone are heavily correlated, but it's also like, if we go back to evolution, in order to dominate and to move, like our whole purpose as humans from an evolutionary standpoint is to proliferate and like further the species. And testosterone is one of the main things for men that help us do that. It's very heavily correlated with status too. So like social status, and if you have higher social status, you're deemed a more worthy, intimate partner, and therefore those two go hand in hand as well. There's a really cool study. They had 4 different groups. So they placed a man in a sports car driving downtown or on a highway, and then they placed the same man in a family sedan driving in a downtown area, populated, or on a highway kind of isolated. And what they saw was in the sports car, testosterone levels were elevated significantly. And so that kind of comes back to that conversation of elevated status, because it was a Porsche, and that was an elevation of status compared to what they probably normally drove.
So when men compare themselves to other successful men or other people in general, because I know there was one thing that a lot of men do, which they say they don't do, but I'm like, every fucking guy is comparing himself.
Yeah.
Shut up! You compare yourself to other people, right? Like we all do, especially as men, like, oh, where's their status at? And I think it's important that we do, because we have like hierarchies around that. And I have this theory in my coaching where I'm like, you want to pick certain hierarchies, screw the other hierarchies, and just climb them. Because you're never going to, it's going to be almost impossible to get to the top. Yeah. Right? Some people will, for the Bezoses and whoever. But it's like you want to get to the top try to get to the top of the hierarchies that you choose, and you want to be always continuously pursuing and climbing. But it's crazy because when we're comparing ourselves at men who are different hierarchies, or the same hierarchies who we deem as better than us or further along the journey or whatever it is, it's just test envy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's what it boils down to. He just got a higher test than me. Fuck.
Because this is how we compare, right? We say this, as men, we'll say this. Yo, that guy's got a Lamborghini. That's amazing. Yeah, but I'm way more jacked than he is.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, he drives a big truck. His dick's probably tiny, right? You know, that's another thing in America. I don't know if you have it in the US.
Yeah, overcompensate.
Yeah. It's like,
but yeah. Well, the same thing is like someone could be like, oh, that guy's jacked as hell. He doesn't make as much money as I do, though. Yeah. He hasn't got as many followers on social media as I got.
He can't pull as many girls as I can.
Yeah, it can't be. Yeah. He's got all the muscles and got all the money, but he can't pull any chicks. So it's all just a competition of testosterone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's amazing.
I was just thinking, I was like, oh my goodness gracious. But yeah, dude, you've been doing all the research and helping people like, get in the test and raising their test. What are some tools that you have found that are just like, when you've done tests with people's bloods and stuff, that you're like, these legitimately work, like across the board of work for your clients?
Yeah. So the way I approach hormones and health in general is like very holistically. So
asking for a friend, by the way.
Yeah. It all starts with blood work, right? And it's not just hormones. It's not just like testosterone and free tests. Like we look at the whole picture, because hormones are fairly downstream. And if there are upstream things like, let's say, gut health, like if they have low stomach acid, they're not going to be able to digest and assimilate the nutrients in the food. And testosterone is heavily correlated to your micronutrient status.
Okay. Let's pause on this.
Yeah.
Right. As you're on there. So, because one thing that you said to me during the week, I don't know if it was this week or last week, we were hanging out, and you were like, yeah, well, a lot of people that I find common amongst all my people is they just have low stomach acid.
Yeah.
Right. So before we get into the micronutrients, because I am such a big believer and passionate about micronutrients, how the hell do we fix our stomach acid?
Right. Yeah.
Like supplementally and then like root cause as well.
Yeah. So, there can be a ton of different root causes. H. pylori is one.
What's that?
So it's a parasite that gets into the stomach. It binds onto something called the parietal cells, which essentially helps produce stomach acid. So it dampens stomach acid so it can essentially live.
All right. So how does one accumulate that?
Accumulate H. pylori?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how common it actually is. I don't know the specific statistic, but like maybe 80% of people have it. Now, symptom-wise, they might have it and it might not be creating symptoms. So that's one thing. There's something called matula tea, which is crazy good for it. It's a bunch of different herbs and stuff. The traditional approach is like nuke it with antibiotics, like 3 different courses, but that's only making it worse. You're killing the rest of your gut bacteria. It might not even kill the H. pylori. So this matula tea is actually really cool. It's expensive tea, but it works.
What is it? Like matula tea? Is it like... it's a tea?
It's a tea. It's just a bunch of different blend of herbs and stuff. The
accent, I thought it was like some testosterone thing. A question. Do you know this one? This H. pylori.
H. pylori, yeah.
H. pylori. if I kissed someone and they had H. pylori
Yeah.
and we were exchanging
So
saliva.
it's interesting. So whenever one of my clients or anyone is going on an H. pylori cleanse, essentially, or killing it, they need their partner to do it as well. Because it's very...
high contagion.
Yeah, high contagion. They need to like get a new toothbrush or like switch their toothbrushes out because it'll be left on there. And that's why it's so prevalent, because it's very contagious. But also getting into like moving on past H. pylori, zinc deficiency, vitamin B12 deficiency are heavily correlated with that as well, because you need zinc and B12 to essentially produce stomach acid. But then it's a catch-22 because you need stomach acid to assimilate and digest zinc. So it's kind of a interesting paradigm to get stuck in. So
started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah. So usually the approach is determine, is it H. pylori or is it more on the nutrient side or something else causing it? Because the approach is different. If it's H. pylori, you don't want to use stomach acid because that'll make things worse.
Whoa.
Because H. pylori correlates with inflammation in the stomach called gastritis. Okay. If you throw in more acid, it's going to make the person uncomfortable.
So if you're having like, so that's it's interesting to know, like, you know, because for me, someone who's just like, I just anti-hate going and seeing people because I have a superiority ego complex that I like to figure everything out myself and stuff the hard way, right? For a lot of things, not with coaching, but for health stuff, it's always like that. So for me, how I would take that if I was like, take a use around it, was like, cool. Take some things that are going to improve my stomach acid. And if it makes me feel discomfort, like, okay, you've probably got a different problem and you shouldn't be taking acid and you've got to heal it in a different way. It's handy to know because I feel like people who may be resistant like me might go, oh, shit, maybe I should actually go and get someone to help me out with my test. Because, you know, if you're taking stomach acid stuff and you've got a little bit of reflux and then you realize it doesn't work, you're like, well, I'm going to have to dig deeper in this because it's not working. Now I'm lost for words. So yeah, so it was that, the H. pylori, and then
zinc and B12. And so the approach for that is supplementing would help, but also you have to support stomach acid with like some betaine HCl.
What's that?
That's just like stomach acid, essentially.
Oh, HCl.
Acid. Yeah,
and
HCl.
What was the other one you said?
Betaine. It's the same
betaine.
thing. It's the same
sorry,
thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Which is hydrochloric acid.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Cool. So in terms of tools then, that was like the gut.
Yeah.
That was the reflux, the question that I asked in there. There was something else that you mentioned. It wasn't just the stomach acid. It was like stomach acid,
the other
micronutrients.
Micronutrients was and so that kind of went into the stomach acid because you need stomach acid to digest the sunlight protein.
And the main micronutrients is zinc and B12
for stomach acid.
Okay.
Yes, zinc is really heavily correlated with testosterone as well so that's like a double whammy. You're low in zinc, so you have low stomach acid, but you're also low in zinc, so maybe your immune system's fucked, or also you need zinc for luteinizing hormone, which is the signal that tells your balls to produce testosterone. So that's why zinc is touted as a test booster, because you need it to produce LH.
Bro, I bet everyone just listening to that right now is like, yo, I'm about to get me some zinc, boys.
I'm glad you say that. I'm glad you say that, because it doesn't matter if you're not deficient in zinc, it's not going to boost your test at all. So that's like why I have such an issue with test boosters and just like throwing all the shit into a product when you're not really assessing for the individual what that person needs. So like the test booster could work for some people because it has what they need, but for other people it doesn't do shit. Yeah. And so then the people that it doesn't work, they're like, oh, the natural route of boosting testosterone is bullshit. I'm going to hop on TRT. Y'all are all idiots. And then they go down that route. And I'm over here like, well, did you like go down the sequential path that you needed to and really looked into the product that you were taking? And more often than not, the answer is absolutely not. It's just, I want a quick fix. I want to feel better. I'm going to inject myself with an exogenous hormone.
Yeah. I'm going to juice up with them steroids, bruh.
Yeah.
So essentially, like what I find fascinating, zinc as a supplement though, what I find fascinating about it though is I feel like most people just in general have a low zinc and need to have zinc. I feel like as a supplementary, like, you know, vitamin, it's something pretty handy that most people can take without having to like, oh, I've been like, you know, prescribed with this thing. It's just like a daily boost. Like majority of people's zinc is low. It's better to take it than to not take it, right?
So you can come into issues with supplementing zinc, like long term, because it's zinc and copper are kind of inversely correlated. So if you superdose your zinc, or you take zinc for a long time, that can plummet your copper, which can create some issues.
It's so crazy. I forget that with minerals, they have this, they have an inverse relationships, and people don't know about that.
Yeah.
Same thing with coconut water, because it has so much potassium that like you can drink so much coconut water. I drink coconut water all day. And because there's too much potassium in there, it absolutely ruins some of their health or hydration, whatever it is, because their sodium gets completely like sucked out.
Yep.
So would that mean, for a period of time, then it's like, I'm like, what do you do about that? So I just assume you just take zinc every day for 30 days that has copper in it, like a zinc and copper supplement.
Yeah. That's usually what I recommend. Like there's a Now Foods product that has copper in it. And if it's a good quality supplement, like they know that zinc and copper are inversely correlated, so they might throw a little bit of copper in there. The best way for me is get these micronutrients from food. So grass-fed beef liver, high in zinc, high in copper, you're doing good just eating that. Maybe the taste sucks. I'm not a fan, but getting it in a way that you can manage.
How else can you get it, which is yum?
A way that it's yum?
Yeah.
I don't know. I hear that people like cooking it with onions and it tastes good, but I've never.
I'm saying like another food ingredient. Like I've when I was doing some research around zinc, it was like oysters.
Yes.
Bison has way higher zinc, and anything that was, I think there was one herb as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but then it was any sort of meat that was unique.
Well, any kind of red meat is going to be high in zinc.
It's higher in zinc. Yeah. But is there anything that prevents zinc from absorbing as well?
Yeah. So this is where like the anti-nutrient conversation comes in. But that's the thing. Like zinc isn't really found in plant-based foods. So yeah, for zinc, nothing is going to come into mind in terms of foods that you'd eat that would hinder it.
Ah, that's good.
They're probably just like other vegetables with like things like phytic acid or oxalates just in general inhibit the absorption of nutrients. So like, maybe having red meat with foods like that could cause an issue, kind of just like extrapolating and inferring at this point right now.
So what are the do's and don't do's then? Like in terms, if I wanted to increase my tests and it was just like general, like without having to go and look at my bloods, you're like, don't do this because that's definitely going to kill your test. Yeah. And definitely do this because it's definitely going to improve your test in regards to a high T lifestyle.
Yeah. So training is really important here. You want to be training with intensity. So
heavy weight,
lifting weights, any type of high intensity. So like sprinting is really good. That actually increases something called DHT, which is kind of like the big brother of testosterone.
Is it better than testosterone?
They do different things, but like DHT is like, it's stronger than testosterone. So
do people inject themselves with DHT?
Not many people do, but some people do. Like biohacking people do.
Why?
It's more responsible for like the masculinization of people. So like beard growth, jawline, deeper voice. It's stronger. So like muscle building as well, but it's always, you got to think about the system as a whole, and you don't want to just like blast DHT because that could fuck you up.
I was gonna say.
It's like headed to the DHT deal after this.
Next minute, that's why they get that Giga Chad jaw and just coming down here. Holy hell.
So training with high intensity is really important. We talked about having micronutrient dense diet. So like training and nutrition, get those locked in. The next one is kind of toxin exposure. So
I want to pause on the micronutrients just to give some people some tips on here before we get into the microtoxin exposure, because what I know for sure with micronutrients is it's getting a range of different vegetables and fruits in every day.
Yeah. Like
a large range. Even for me, like most times when I'm in the shops or I'm going somewhere, I always try to grab like something random or out of the blue in regards to a vegetable or a fruit that I haven't had in a while to try to get some sort of micronutrient, especially when I'm traveling, because I usually just eat the same shit.
Yeah.
I get into the habit of eating the same shit and I go, shit, I'm going to grab like a kiwi fruit and like a mixed bag of like celery. I was at my friend's today and he had guacamole, but they had it one with all these different herbs and all this stuff. And then I was like, oh, thank God. There's like mix of vegetables.
Yeah.
Put it on my stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
definitely. I recommend that too. Not even only for the micronutrient diversity, because it's really cool. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard this, like eat the rainbow, and that's just like have a diversity of colors. It makes it really simple for younger people. So just like when you're shopping or like on a weekly basis, just rotating a different color in usually equates with a different micronutrient. And then also from like going back to gut health, getting a variety of foods in gets you exposed to different prebiotic fibers, which is going to create more diversity in your gut, which is going to be good.
Elite. Now microtoxins. Sorry.
Yeah. So toxins in general, like mold and mycotoxins, is definitely going to kill your test. So if you're in a moldy environment, a moldy shower or something, like definitely get that sorted. But toxins, so pesticides, endocrine disruptors.
Like what? What are pesticides? And
Pesticides. So glyphosate is the big one. So like
what's that?
it's essentially Roundup, which is it's a weed. It's a
So they
bug
spray
killer.
on your food, isn't it?
They spray it, yeah. On the farms, they like big farms. They spray it, kills the bugs, and therefore they are able to increase their yield and make more crops. But there's a lot of health benefit or health risks that come with eating foods like that. Because one, and I was talking about this on the masterclass, what the glyphosate does is it stops something called STAR, which is essentially how cholesterol gets into the mitochondria to then be produced into testosterone. So directly, like it inhibits that. So you're gonna, if your toxin load of glyphosate is high, right there, your test is being killed. And then there's just a whole lot of other health issues that come along with glyphosate, like liver issues, gut issues that are going to hinder like secondary things that are going to lower your test. So that's glyphosate, that's pesticides, even things like air pollution. Like if you live in a heavily densely populated area with like cars driving all around, like a downtown area, a thing that you could do is maybe even get an air filter in your bedroom. You know, you spend 8 hours there a day, put an air filter in your house. Is going to make the air cleaner, less exposure to toxins like that. That's kind of a niche one, but beneficial nonetheless. Plastics is probably the biggest one that we talk about.
You say like bring your own coffee cup to places.
Yeah,
The plastic film on the inside of coffee cups.
Yeah. If you think about it, you're boiling hot liquid into plastic. It's going to leach out and you're going to drink that.
Yeah, because you think it's cardboard.
Yeah. It's not on the inside.
Yeah, because they've got to keep the coffee in there somehow.
Yeah, exactly. It would just crumble. Then you hot, crumbly coffee in your hands.
Oh, man. And then you said about undies as well. Like everyone's...
Yeah. So polyester is pretty big these days, and that's made out of plastic. If you've ever seen a video of melting polyester, it looks really weird because it gets all goopy, and it's just like you're melting plastic. And that's what's in contact with your balls 24/7. And so like if you think you're going to work out, you're sweating, those chemicals are getting transferred into your balls. And polyester, they've done studies on it, it's a contraceptive in men. So it's drastically impacting your sperm parameters.
I want to talk more about this infertile stuff right now, just real quick on here.
Yeah.
While we're here. Because there's a lot of men that, you know, I know of personally and that reach out and talk that have been like, that have so much fucking shame around being infertile. Like they feel so much shame around it. And it's like, holy shit, you know, I'm a fertile guy. Like obviously I think there was studies or something that showed like by 2050 or something that we won't have any fresh sperm.
Yeah, it's getting pretty crazy. So we talk about testosterone decline, but equally as well, sperm counts, infertility. Yeah, they're heavily correlated. Yeah. So like if someone's infertile, their test is probably pretty low. Yeah, it's crazy the downtrend, and like when you get to zero, it's really interesting, because like I don't know about you, but in the past like 10 years, the big thing is like we're overpopulated. We need to like do something about it, but like it's kind of this thing under the rug where it's like we're actually like on the precipice of possibly a population decline and species extinction, which is mind blowing to one even think about that. Like we could possibly be facing issues like that, like when we're older.
It's crazy. Someone said to me, they're like, oh, do you know that Japan's population is declining? And I was like, so is Australia. Mm-hmm. Like Australia's population.
Korea is one of the worst right now.
Is it?
Yeah.
No one having the babies out there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean that place is interesting too, because it's a fertility thing. Yes, like the whole world is dealing with that, but then it's this like almost anti-men society
In Korea.
Yeah, I don't know. I forget what the name of it was, but it's like this popular group that got pretty popular, and they're essentially just like denouncing all contact with men. And they're just like denouncing all men. Like, we don't need men in society. We are fine by ourselves. Like, we are independent women and all that. But they're
sad, dude.
Yeah, it's just not looking good.
It's just sad. Just all us studs out here just getting rejected, bro.
Yeah.
It's like, yes. It's a greatest fear, just living on a country-size level right now.
Yeah.
But no, bro, it's that's crazy. So what else then in regards to like test? Because you're talking about the plastics and how they are everywhere. It's like polyester is like most clothes. Basically, if anything's not cotton or linen,
yeah,
it's like plastic as shit,
mm-hmm.
and you're just absorbing that straight through your skin. But the worst part is when you're sweating and working out, because everyone's got skins and the Under Armour and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's all just polyester.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hugging your nuts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Tight.
Very tight. And that's making it, so that's another thing, like the tighter, usually the more heat is produced, and our balls don't like heat. So that's why they sit out of our body, because they need to be a little bit cooler to function optimally. So like we're having these tight underwear that's like pushing them up essentially, bringing it closer to our body. So they're warming a little bit, and higher temperatures with sperm that don't really mix. So that's another thing that we're doing.
Yeah, I'm thinking about my balls being like pushed up and in, and it's like making me feel physically uncomfortable.
I feel them happening. It's happening to me right now.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
But
So,
again, like
let them out.
So like the underwear that we wear, and then also we're sitting all day. So like they're just plopped right up there, warm in between our legs. Yeah. So like the sedentary lifestyle is really bad for fertility as well, because we're just sitting and heating our balls.
That's why I really understand you in regards to like the high tea lifestyle, such a click, because like sitting down, plastic underwear, plastic coffee cups, plastic Tupperware, not having enough micronutrients, like all of those things are just contributing. What about stress? I want to hear like your perception on stress.
Yeah, stress is a big one.
Because I want to know about what to do often.
Yeah, cortisol and testosterone are very inversely correlated. So people who are just like jacking their cortisol up and super stressed out, they're most likely going to have lower testosterone. That's where there's an interesting argument as well. Like, it's kind of Goldilocks, right? If you're the dude in the basement, you don't have any stress, there's no need for testosterone. But you're a guy who's working out 7 times a week, business deals, a lot of mental stress, tons of women that are stressful, that's not good either. So it's kind of like for testosterone, it's kind of like this you can call it like maybe the Goldilocks hormone. That's the first time I've used that. But yeah, it's kind of that. In terms of stress, you need to find the balance of the right amount of stress, because training is stress. Like going into the sauna, doing a cold plunge, that's stress.
Yeah, because a lot of, I swear, what I've looked at with supplements, what I've looked into is I'm like, basically everything that increases your testosterone is just decreasing your stress.
Mm. Yeah, so Tonkat Ali is something that does that, like kind of ashwagandha as well. Reduce the stress, reduce cortisol, and so it can support the hormones. And
what makes sense to me as a guy who's like crushing it in business and dealing with the stress, is like every time he overcomes something, he's going to get a test boost.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a good tangent as well. Like the correlation between test increasing and winning, and test decreasing and losing. So again, like status, when we're winning, test bumps, we're getting dopamine. And then also being around, this one's really cool too, like being around women you perceive as attractive, test boost. All these like cool, like this is the shit that I nerd out about, like the cool like little societal things like you wouldn't think about, but it makes so much sense, because like if you're around attractive women, you're going to want to like pursue them, and testosterone helps with that. So your body's like, here you go. Just gives you a little injection, natural injection. Get after it, bro.
I just want to just plug into everyone's mind, as soon as you say a guy who's around a lot of hot chicks, you usually think of like some Playboy dude with heaps of hot chicks, and that's test envy again.
Yeah. I like this idea of test envy.
Yeah, it's test envy. It's like, look at this guy with all his high tests. He's just showing his high tests. Because like, if he's around beautiful women that even you find attractive, you're like, fuck, he's around all these attractive women. Immediately as a guy, you just go, oh, I want to be like that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to have that attention and that approval. Like immediately, regardless if you're young or old, it's like, that'd be nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even if you're in a locked in relationship with someone that you love and you care about, you're like, stud, like that'd be nice.
Yeah.
They're honeys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And immediately that's just like, yeah, it's test envy.
Yeah, we're
Which I
definitely
kind of
onto
like
something.
it. We're like a game of like, who can showcase the most amount of tests.
Just like peacocking around with
Yeah.
their test levels.
But I also think it's kind of fun. You know what I mean? Like that whole game, because that's what we do in sports.
Yeah.
I mean, you play sports, so you know what it's like. I mean, when you win, when you lose, and you're going back and forth, you're like consistently competing, like in tests as well, in regards to winning, alpha dogging.
Oh, that'd be crazy to see. Just like if they would be able to do a study of like both teams and just continually measure their testosterone levels. And just see like, you know, this team's T is higher and they're starting to come back and they're starting to like score points and shit. Yeah, and just like see the
Talk to
back
some
and forth.
doctors and do it, bro.
Yeah, we're gonna make this study happen.
Dude, seriously, make this study happen.
The test envy study.
Yeah, dude, test envy is real.
Yeah.
Well, it is real. We know it's real. We're
It's
comparing
100%
ourselves.
real.
Yeah, but to see in terms of how it works behaviorally, in like even in a short and low kind of period would be fascinating.
Yeah, super cool
to figure out. So yeah, what are some to-dos then?
To-dos. So like for stress, manage stress. Like I gave a master class and I was kind of not condescending, but like I was just like, you know, if you're doing all this shit, just chill, bro. Like if you're training 7 times a week, if you're fasting, like 36-hour fast every week or like twice a week, and then you're using hella stimulants, like just chill, like chill out a little bit. That's on the stress side. We talked about nutrition. We talked about training. Toxins. So like we talked about avoiding toxins, but you can also detox the toxins. So like sauna, sweating, things like that are going to be really good. And then I guess we can get into supplements if you want.
Yeah, bro, of course.
Okay.
Tell me what to take, runner.
Yeah. There's a bunch of good ones. It depends on, you know, it always depends. That's my thing. Depends on like what you're dealing with or what outcome you want. My favorites are Tonkat Ali. So I really like that one. You have to make sure though that it's standardized to the active ingredient.
How do you check that?
So like you can just look on the bottle. It would say it's standardized for Tonkat, it's like 2%, 10% uricomanone.
Okay, so like on the actual thing, it will say
on the bottle,
2 or 10% somewhere.
Yeah, they would show more. If it is standardized, they would more than likely share that because they know if they don't share it, the people that know, they're not going to even fuck with it. So that's usually something that I have to look for, like what's the standardization, what's the percentage, that type of stuff. There might be some brands that don't, but you can literally just ask for their COA, their certificate of analysis, to see like one, that what they say is in there is actually in there. And usually if they don't provide a COA, you know, that's a red flag for me.
What is a COA?
Certificate of analysis. It's essentially like showing like the purity. So like there's 200 milligrams of Tonkat. They show that 200 milligrams on the test. And then the like impurities. So if there's heavy metals, like arsenic, lead, mold or anything like that, they test for that.
So if you just email the companies, they'll just send it to you?
The good ones will send it to you. The ones that I'm sketched out about, they'll either say no or they'll give you some reason as to why not, like we don't test that or whatever. And usually that for me is like a red flag. Your supplement's not high quality. I'm not going to get the result that I want from it, and I'm not going to purchase it.
Makes sense. So hit me up.
Yeah.
We've got Tonkat Ali.
Tonkat. Tribulus is cool. So that's another one that needs to be standardized. I forget the actual name, but something saponins, I think that's the active one. Good for DHT, like we talked about. It'll help boost that.
Dude, my friend took Tribulus because he got his blood tested, and then like 10 weeks later got it tested again, and it like went up by like 70% or something.
Yeah.
And he was like double dosing it daily, but it went up like big time.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what else he was doing as well, or if it was just
he got more locked
Tribulus.
in.
Yeah,
for sure. Like
yeah.
he was meditating more, and he was just in general, he was just locked in. It's my buddy Glenn. Shout out Glenn.
Yeah.
And yeah, his test just went through the roof.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Tonkat, Tribulus. Let's see. I like Shilajit. So Shilajit's another one.
Shit's legit.
Yeah. Tis.
Tastes legit too.
Yeah, it's not the nicest thing, but that's like the high tea lifestyle, bro. You gotta challenge yourself. This tastes like shit. For my test.
We should have ate some on live and been like, this is just to who can do the most alpha thing.
Take the biggest
The
glob.
most amount of Shilajit.
Just start chewing it.
And not have a facial reaction. You just have to go like this. And just not react.
I should have brought mine.
Huh?
I should have brought mine.
It should have.
We can do it later.
It is nasty. Yeah, we'll do it somewhere else. Who can have the biggest? I really rate Shilajit. I think it's a good supplement.
Yeah. Shilajit's great. Bunch of minerals, fulvic acid, humic acid, really good for you. Helps increase luteinizing hormone if you need it to.
Luteinizing hormone does, like, what is it?
Tells your balls to make testosterone.
So, that's what you get back on the blood test as well. You see luteinizing hormone.
Yeah, LH and FSH. LH is more on the hormone side, or testosterone side. Yeah. Fedosia agressus seems to work. I'm not a big fan of that. Fedosia agressus.
Yeah.
Another herb. Huberman kind of made it popular. Studies show that it can boost tests, but there's like some worry around it of also creating toxicity. So I'm not usually a fan of it. I don't really use that.
What about fenugreek seed?
Fenugreek, yeah. So that was the one I was trying to think of. Fenugreek, super cool. 10-20% increase in total tests. I'm taking a product that has fenugreek in it right now, which is cool. That one's cool. There's pine pollen, which is like, there's less research around that, but that one's kind of interesting. They say that it has phytoandrogens. So we hear about phytoestrogens, which are in like soy, which like make it more estrogenic, make estrogen levels increase. So like phytoandrogens, that sounds pretty sick, right? So like, see how that works. That one's less like studied and less like, I can tell you 100% it works.
Have you seen it work though with the people that you've?
I haven't really used it with other people. I'm testing it on myself right now first, and I feel like a fucking beast right now. So I'm doing a lot of things, but I think that is contributing.
What else are you doing? Just real quickly, just hit me off. Just boom.
Yeah, so pine pollen, there's this, I'm actually taking a test booster product, but it's got all really good things that I like Tomcat.
What's the product?
It's Notable Alpha. It's this guy on Twitter. His handle is Newtbro. He's fucking ridiculous. Like, he's smart as fuck and knows his shit. I think he's in cahoots with Based supplements, if you've heard of that brand. Him, Noah Ryan, I learned a lot from those guys. They're fucking cool. What they share on Twitter is ridiculous. So that product, it's got ginger, it's got Tomcat, it's got fenugreek extract. I think it has zinc. Might not have zinc. Vitamin D. Yeah, so zinc, vitamin D, those are going to be important to make sure that your stores are full, and then you supplement them.
Yeah.
So like, again, blood test.
What else is that? What were you taking?
I was taking that. I was taking pine pollen, magnesium before bed, and Shilajit sometimes, like pre-workout.
Yeah.
So I'm not really taking that much.
Yeah, and then just high tea lifestyle. Regards to making sure you're not doing the things.
Yeah, like trying to do as much as I can.
Getting
sunlight, walking, like breaks. I'm starting up Muay Thai pretty soon. I got the like shin guards, got to get in there. Just the timing hasn't worked out yet, but that's.
So why is that? Is that for like a test reason? Something fun?
It's a lot. So like, yeah, combat sports. You think you're fighting. I get a lot of that from competing just in sports. Like I told you a while ago. Like the inner beast comes out. I'm a fucking dog. And then, yeah, just getting more of that. Like really getting in contact with that inner beast and kind of letting it out. One for that reason. It's just always been something I've wanted to do, like some type of fighting. I've actually never been in a fight myself, so like getting into one would be cool.
Speaking of that, one of my friends was like, hey, let's like go get some boxing gloves and like go play around in the ring. And I was like, yeah, I thought we were just going to like hit some shit, take some photos, get some video content, because we had like content guy there. And he's a stud. And then we got in there and we were just fighting.
Yeah.
And we walked in and he's like, right, let's go, bro. Let's go. I'm pumped. I was like, I'm going to punch you in the face, bro. He's like, yeah, let's go. We just want to hit each other hard, man. Like, let's just try to get around punches. Dude, I was like, there was a couple of times where I could have like leant over and hit in to get a punch, and he was like, I was trying to like get you to punch me so that I could punch you. So I know you were like in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, next minute I was waiting. I was like, nah, I couldn't. I think he just punched me in the face, like just straight up with boxing glove. Just went bang. We had no mouth guards and nothing. I was like, oh fuck you.
Yeah,
Like
let's go. It's on
like
now.
it was on, yeah. And then we're just punching each other in the face for like an hour, dude. It was just non-stop. And I talked to one of my friends who fought, and he's like, you weren't wearing a mouth guard? He's like, dude, what are you doing not wearing a mouth guard? I was like, yeah, I'm bleeding in the inside of my mouth, like everywhere. Like I got punched in the nose and the mouth, and like I punched him in the face heaps of times.
Yeah.
Like, and then like punching each other hard in the guts. We started getting in there. We're getting like, like getting there. And we're like, oh, we're gonna hold back because we're starting to get like,
it's like,
we
wait a
get
minute.
to get a bit much at the moment.
Yeah, you start to see him as like your mortal enemy. It's like, wait, that's my homie.
Oh,
what are we doing?
You kind of shut off that it's your homie, and he's just like, this thing, if I don't hit it hard, it's going to hurt me. And there's like this weird sort of thing that come in, and we're just like punching each other. So I've done a few boxing classes, but dude, it is like when you do, just getting it, so I was like, this is crazy. And it makes you really feel like, man, like fighting someone and punching someone in the face is so much more like just real than like what you think it is.
Yeah.
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 And knowing that like, you can get hit like
Yeah.
decently hard without, faltering. It's like
Yeah.
we'll give some pretty decent jabs like to the face. We're getting like bang bangs in there, and I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. Like obviously if I full on hit someone like in the situation with the gloves that we had on, like it's just gonna like knock someone out. Like when you go full that hard, but I feel like when you're trying to hit that hard, and you're not like a pro boxer, like there's always like a swing, you can see it more. You can go, oh shit, I need to like put my guard up or something. Like it's interesting how your body can like works in a boxing setting like that. It blew my brain.
Yeah. Yeah, what is it? Mike Tyson says everyone has a plan until you get hit in the face, hit square in the face.
Bro, until you get punched straight in the face, bro. But I loved it. It was really exhilarating, bro. So
I feel like I would like it.
For you. Oh yeah. It's super masculine. You're like, this is elite. But even speaking on that, I was watching a post Solbrat put up, and I was looking at this study that he put out. And the study was all around, is a socio-behavioral study that they did for basically, quote unquote, nice guys.
Yep.
And it said that nice guys men who have higher testosterone are less likely to fake yes and fake please other people, and men that have low testosterone have a way higher chance of over pleasing and fake pleasing people. Crazy with the people pleasers. Because what I learned, because I like read most of the study, I flicked through and was reading how they actually did it.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Right, yeah. But what they did was they like had a bunch of different groups of people that they knew had higher and lower test, and they watched them in social situations, and they had like people, I'm pretty sure it was like they had, they put people in that that the participants weren't aware of, where they basically had to say no or yes. And all the guys with the higher test like declined and didn't fake please or over please, and all the guys with lower tests did.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, super cool. It's like where both of our worlds meet. Like I think I commented it. It's like nice guys equal low test.
Yeah, I remember seeing your comment on the post.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's like a generalization, right? Of course. There's traumas that come in that make people act the way they do, but talking in trends and correlations, like I think that's a pretty strong correlation.
Yeah, people pleasers.
Yeah.
So nice guys, yes men, people pleasers. They overdo it for someone, like always doing everything for everyone else. I'm stressed out, I'm overwhelmed because I've put all this shit on my plate because I don't know how to empower other people, say no, take leadership or responsibility. Low test.
Low test.
How embarrassing, bro.
It's a low test lifestyle. Just people pleasing.
So I think about myself being a people pleaser and doing that. And I'm like, dude, that's embarrassing, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, same for me. Like I've had tendencies like that in the past. 4 or 5 years ago, I correlate that pretty heavily. Like my test was low as shit, and yeah, I didn't even know who I was, and I just like people please the shit out of everyone else.
Makes me want to grow a beard, bro.
Yeah, just like live in the wilderness and just do all the masculine things.
But no, I feel that, man, and like that just comes back to the high T lifestyle, right? Where it's like, okay, the test envy, what I know is what you would see is like envy that I would know between men who are around strong leaders who have high test and men that don't, was they would see men who are leaders who can power other people, have challenging conversations, lean into not worrying other people's emotions and, take on proper responsibility and open up vulnerably because they're comfortable and have the confidence to do so. I feel like getting vulnerable as a man is actually a way of expressing your boundaries and showing your power and strength because you're not afraid of, feeling weak. And it's like, if you're afraid of feeling weak, right, that's pleasing other people. That's fake pleasing. And then that's you wearing a mask. So that is where the men's work and everything meet in terms of the masks that you're wearing and where you're at. It's all just symptoms of, lower test.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. The vulnerability thing for me, to me, like you said, it's like a sign of strength because you don't care what other people think. You're at ease with yourself enough that you can share a weakness, you can share a vulnerability, an area that you might not be that great at.
Or really good at.
Yeah. But you're okay with that. You're at peace with yourself, so you do it. And that's where like the toxic masculinity and that whole thing of like people being like they ultra unvulnerable, like they don't share anything, low test.
Dude, toxic masculinity
is low test.
Is low test.
Dude, I remember I used to talk about this a lot. Like,
did you?
Toxic masculinity is not a high test problem. It's a low test problem.
It's a low
because they're
test.
Insecure, because they don't have confidence in themselves because they have low test.
Do you think that the toxic masculinity in regards to that is actually more of a case of men becoming more feminine?
Yeah, I think there's. What do you mean?
Like in regards to, like when you said toxic masculinity is, you were saying it was like the shut off person, right?
Yeah.
In your definition.
Yeah.
The guy
that's like an archetype within it. Yeah.
An archetype. Is there any others that are on top of your mind that describe toxic
Yeah, it's like the super passive, just people walk over them. People walk all over them.
Yeah.
That kind of like femboy.
Yeah. Well, there you go. It's like the femboy.
Yeah.
So it is like, more feminine because I was reading this in a book this morning by Alison Armstrong called Understanding Women. I was like, that's a great book to get men to buy.
Yeah.
But she wrote a book called Understanding Men and Development of Men. She spent 15 years understanding men and their behaviours and how they worked. And I've just had her books on repeat. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I just put her books on and listen to them. I'm like, oh, these are so good. And then I just like fall asleep and then wake up and usually put them on again. And in the book Understanding Women, it's so fantastic. What she was saying is that women have this thing where they always need to please their man, right? It's just ingrained in their DNA. It's like if the man is at home, regardless of where she is, it's like the king's in the castle, the protector and the provider is here, the hunter is here, and I need to please him. And it's encoded in her DNA. She can't not have this feeling. So his emotions directly reflect back to her, and then she feels them, right? Now the thing is with women, they can feel hundreds of different emotions all the time. Or like they'll be like, oh my God, I feel so sad for you that this thing happened, but I'm really excited for this person. This happened. That's amazing. And then, oh my God, that thing's the worst thing there. I feel that so much. So they're fluid. It's not like they're actually feeling anything at one time. They have this like diffused sort of feeling thing where it's just, they're so adaptable. When men, if we're pissed off or grumpy, we're grumpy. That's it the whole day. It's like, I can't figure out while I'm fucking grumpy and I'll be grumpy all day. And then when we're happy and excited, we're like, oh, let's go do some shit. I'm excited. Let's keep it going. And you just want to stay excited and happy for the whole day. So you're like, this is great. Let's do this and then let's do this and let's do this. Like it's every man listening, like, yep, that pretty makes sense. When women, it's not really there because it's just adaptability and fluidity. So when it comes to the femboys of when, sorry for just saying femboys.
So that's so
There's
serious.
no like, there's no like hate towards any of us. So nothing but love because I've been femboy in areas of my life too. It comes and goes, right?
Same.
And it sucks. But when you're in that, we need help to get out of that, right? And that's why I have a lot of empathy around it. But the over-pleasing that we do, the passiveness that we have, and the ability to assert our own like will in a setting, or surrender, forgive, and let go, and just remain strong. It's just symptoms, if we can't do that, of low test.
Yeah. That's
is
really good.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, what you laid out makes sense. Like the passiveness and the lack of drive and motivation kind of correlates with the scenario that you created with like the woman who's like there to please, right? Yeah, it's just those guys are more stuck in that of like, who do I need to please, rather than I need to go out and like create something and like use that. Yeah, it's low test because they don't have the testosterone for the drive and motivation to go out and do things. So their low test makes them more passive and more like wanting someone else to come do it for them.
Yeah, I relate to that. It's like, you know, you give me something. You know what I mean? I want someone to give to me. But it makes a lot of sense because what I do in my community and Set the Standard, we have this process called purpose process, and it used to be called Overcome the Chaos, and it was like this big series of basically everything that I ever learned. I tried to condense it to as short as much stuff as I could, and it was an 8-module program. It took some people 10 months to finish. It's only 8 1-hour videos, right? But the reflection is so deep in there, like it's so deep in the exercises, you know, it takes like a couple hours because you do a lot of introspection. I've been able to like chop that, put it into a process, the purpose process, which is all just AI enhanced. So you just copy and paste a formula into AI. It asks you questions one at a time, and then it spits you out something absolutely brilliant, right? But the guys who go through and finish it, really, by the last module, which is the most important, the last module in there, like you will know your purpose. You'll understand what it is. And just a caveat to that, the thing is sometimes when people learn their purpose, there's a curse because they understand their purpose and they don't live it.
Yeah.
The depression, anxiety gets worse because now they know what it is and they're aware that they're not living it.
Oof.
And that just gets like darker and darker and darker. We see some guys finish the community and they know what their purpose is, and they're just like, yeah, this is it. And they get pumped, and like they finish up or whatever it is, and then they don't stay accountable and they don't stay true. And you can kind of see them in their energy going like, oh, and shame's kicking in because they're not living it, because they know what it is, and it's like testosterone is dropping.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're too low test to go out and do something about it.
And they're too low test. But the guys who are crushing, which is a way higher percentage than guys that aren't, who have finished like the last module of the purpose process or Overcome the Chaos, is like once they've had the moment at the end of the last module, because it's a visualization exercise where you put everything in together and you do it on both of them and you visualize it, is like you're making this make sense. They get such a big win out of it because they're like, oh my God, I know what this
is. It's like the biggest win that a man could have. Finding
their purpose.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're getting a test surge.
Yeah.
And that's why, and then what happens is they get this wave of test and then they got to ride it. And if they don't ride it out, like that's when stuff starts to go back down and then you just consistently feel like you're jamming a lawnmower.
Mm-hmm. Bro, let's go. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it makes so much sense though,
yeah.
Like in regards to this, because even John Gray talked about it. I'm not sure what study it was done in, but he said like men's testosterone, when they watch a sports game and their team wins, they're like, yeah. Mm-hmm. You have studies around that, right? Though.
Nothing. I haven't. I'm sure they're
around winning.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah, about winning.
Yeah. So like, because winning is members watch their team sports win, they go, yeah.
T goes up.
Then when they're down, their T goes down.
Yeah. Good stuff. It's my
crazy
stuff. It's way better. This is way better than the idea that we had last time with the dick sock. We're on way better. This is way better stuff.
We're gonna make a product, you guys. It's dropping tomorrow, and it's a dick sock made out of tribulus.
That's what it was. I completely forgot what it was. Yeah.
Tribulus and Tonka Ali dick sock before you go to bed, so your testosterone's through the roof. Could you imagine? Because I know there was like cold therapy around like your balls, right?
Yeah.
Does that work? Is that legit?
Yeah. So like icing your balls, anecdotal evidence of like feeling like you're higher T, but I think also the more of the science is based on fertility around that. Like icing your balls is going to help fertility. Yeah.
All right. Tell me more about fertility then and stuff like this, because I want to help people become more fertile as men. And it's like, we know everything that you said around the test is what's going to prevent them. Not getting enough sunlight as well included, not getting the micronutrients, the plastics, touching receipts, cans, some cans have plastics in them, whatever it is. All of that. Eating food out of anything that's plastic. I want to know more about like how to become more fertile as a man.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is that.
It's just
like a lot of the stuff that we've talked about. maybe a caveat or something, a different direction we can go is varicoceles. Do you know what that is?
No.
Do you know what PCOS is?
Yes.
I love that. PCOS, around 7 to 10% of childbearing age women have it.
PCOS is like you got shit on your ovaries.
Yeah, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Yeah.
Varicocele, 15% of men have them. And
Varicocele is what PCOS is, but on your ball sack.
No. Okay. No, I just compare the two because people know what PCOS is and 7 to 10% have it. People don't know what varicocele is and 15% have it.
Okay, and varicocele is male.
Is male. Yeah, it's essentially like the veins that go into your balls get all wrapped up and it impairs fertility and also testosterone levels.
And how do we fix some varicoceles, bro?
Yeah, it's tough. Like, there's not really any holistic fix that you could do. It's surgery, and then there's another procedure, but it's pretty invasive.
Because I went because I thought I had cancer in my nuts at one stage.
Me too.
And this guy just went in and he's like, I'm not supposed to tell you this. He's ultrasounded. He's like, I'm not allowed to tell you this, but bro, you've got veins as fuck. So I think I have like the varicoceles thing.
Yeah.
Like whatever it was. He's just, you got heaps of veins that like surround like wherever it is. And he's like, but basically you'd be fine unless they're like hurting.
Yeah, that's like the symptoms: hurting, pain in the scrotum. Yeah, you would see on a blood test higher luteinizing hormone, which you talked about, but low to suboptimal test. You could probably still have high tests, but your body is pushing harder because like there's something going on at the balls. So the pituitary gland is just continually telling like, hey, like we need more tests. So it's sending it more and more LH. So that's why that goes high. But the balls, there's something going on. So it's not producing as much as the rest of the body wants.
Okay. Two things I want to talk about because we're getting close to wrapping up time. So I wanted to kind of like go hard on these. One is like the studies around not masturbating and high test and your perception on that, because I have a perception on it and I think it's not masturbating is the best thing ever. And second, like what was the point when it pissed you off enough where you were like, fuck man, I'm working on building my test up?
Yeah. So the masturbation thing, we can come back to the high tea lifestyle. Let's compare a guy who goes out and like pursues women in real life compared to the man who's in his basement and all he has to do is take out his phone and then he's reproducing essentially.
Get on that Pornhub.
Yeah, he gets on Pornhub and he just scrolls for 2 seconds and then he's done. Lifestyle wise, there's not a lot of signaling for testosterone in that scenario. So that's the lifestyle side of things. That's like coming back to what we've been talking about.
Yeah, just chasing the woman, you're out, you got to be having a career, you need hustling.
You need testosterone to get her. Yeah. You don't need it to scroll on your phone. And then, there's a study that they did where they essentially did semen retention for, I think, a week or 2 weeks. And it showed that on the 7th day, it peaked up like 140%. So that I think is worthwhile. It did like come back down. So it was weird. Like the 7th day it jacked up and then after that it came down. I don't know if there's anything special about the 7th day or whatever. But I think just from a like anecdotal as well and just like people I talk to, there's a lot of just like you feel way more masculine and like more drive and motivation when you're not ejaculating like consistently or like every 2 days. I even noticed that in myself. Like I feel way more locked in. My business does better. I just feel more high test when I'm not consistently masturbating.
Yeah, I feel you big time. Like I believe in it. I was like, I quit masturbating like 5 years ago. Yeah. Because I wanted to deal with the frustration of not having enough money, not having the woman that I want, not having the things that I have in my life, and deal with like, oh my God, but I've got all this energy. Yeah. So that I go out and get it. Excuse me. And the other one was, I want to know is, what pissed you off enough? Like what got you to the point where you're like, I'm so pissed that I want to go work on this? Or upset, down, whatever.
For me, it was back when I worked as an engineer. So I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. I had like very few real conversations with people. My friend didn't really have friends. I was lonely. That whole environment, just like that was essentially my rock bottom. Just being there and just like being in that apartment and being like, fuck, like, is this really what my life is? and just feeling so down about that. Like, what the fuck? Like, why am I doing this? So that was kind of the spark that started everything for me. I got really into fitness, got much more into like holistic health. And then that whole pathway kind of led me to this. So it didn't start with testosterone. It started with just like health and fitness and like purpose and all these things. And that has kind of led me to this. And now I'm more educated around health in general, and I have the bandwidth to be able to go deep on things like this. And so, yeah, now I see it as like one of the most important things for men. Because again, coming back to the fertility crash that we could possibly experience, like that's a big problem that we could possibly face. And I don't know, I want to do my help to, do what I can to maybe not have to experience that.
Jacked, fertile, high test, high status, successful stud. Let's go. Bro, for everyone who's listening, where can they find you?
Yeah, so Instagram is the easiest place. My name, Mark Holman, Holman, and just health after that. So Mark Holman Health on Instagram.
Dude, thanks so much for coming on the show. And it's been so fucking awesome connecting with you the last couple of weeks, bro. It's been legit.
Sick.
Big love, bro.
Same.
Oh! Let's go.
Test, baby. That was good.
Fuck yeah.
I feel like that was way better than the first one.